about the middle of August. Frost. Yesterday was apparently the coldest day of the year, which I think got down to about minus 3.9. Here's the new viburnum, which hopefully that's doing okay in the cold, because it looks like a little bud that's doing alright. More of the frost. So where the shadows are, more frost. Got some of the bulbs coming up. Other bits and pieces hanging in there. Unfortunately, one of my bulbs appears to have been somewhat chewed. I'm not entirely sure by what, but there you go. I've actually taken the dead wood off the dahlias there. I assume that's basically the best idea. I was quite late doing it. I am attempting to overwinter them, and we'll see how we go. The hollyhock here looking a bit sort of ragged. I've also taken off some of the bottom of the lupin here. Excuse the noisy car, to see if that'll help it regenerate. Now, an interesting thing here is we're still in winter, but the trees are budding up a bit, and this one's got a lot of leaves. I'm assuming that basically it's a bit more sheltered there, and so it's making the most of that. Excuse the noisy truck. This side's looking alright. Nice splash of purple. And here, I was going to actually just snap off the ends of the, I think they were gladioli and liliums, but they ended up actually pulling out, so I pulled those out, and I'm assuming, / hoping, that under the ground they're still developing and will push out when they're ready. But there we go. That's all there. I'll do a quick walk over to the other side. At least the frost is, left. That's it now. Still coming along. There we go. So this is a section of the property, I guess, that I don't often use. It's actually back behind the garage. Now, I've had some pallets sitting down here to try and get rid of the sticky weed. And it's just interesting, this is what was under one of the pallets. So I've got all of that to have a look at. And there's a yucca there that I'd like to get out as well. I'm going to use pizza boxes and some other boxes to cover them and see how we go. And then we have the veggie patch and the neighbour's barking dog, apparently. Now, this bit seems to be doing alright. So the garlic is still continuing quite nicely. Some interplanted lettuce, and you should be able to see a whole bunch of onion seeds that are coming up, which is good. Self-seeded potato, grapevine, looking a little rough from the weather, I think, but it is growing up there, or at least it was. Hopefully it's still doing alright. Something I planted, don't remember what. Some beans, so they seem to be doing alright. Or beans or peas, I'm not actually sure which I did there. There are a few other bits and pieces that I've sown here or planted out that seem to be doing alright. The long-standing curly kale, weed patch there, ignore that. Rough around the edges here, ignore that. We'll go here first. So more lettuce and a capsicum / pepper that didn't do so well there. Frosty, I'm just trying to be a bit careful here. Now that's the one carrot that I've had that's been growing very well, and I'm leaving it there to go to seed. So I'll harvest the seed from that hopefully when it gets there. It is tempting to just pull it and have the carrot, but I think it'd be better to keep the seed from that and continue on. I'm just going to duck down this way. So that's the rhubarb at the moment. It's lost all of its leaves, but I'm hoping that's just a winter thing and it'll start growing when the weather suits it. This is the gooseberry bush I took the cutting from. I have one of the many nectarine trees around the place. I believe that's another nectarine tree again. Oh, there we go. Getting the buds there. The apricot tree, which is still surviving. Another nectarine. My cabbage that was absolutely sort of hammered by the caterpillars and things, but seems to be coming good now. That was one of two. The other one did actually die off. And behind that is the parsley, which is the supermarket bought parsley that was in the raised bed in the greenhouse that I've now planted out there. It still seems to be doing fine. We have what I've now determined is basically going to be the strawberry bed. This one was grown from a runner from that plant. That one looks like it's dying off, which is not too surprising. That's one of the original ones, or the original one that actually survived. So hopefully this one will generate some runners this year, which I'll use to create more. But I also bought some seeds for alpine strawberries, so I'll give those a try as well. Collected some more manure recently. So in here, this is actually a mixed heap. So at the bottom, the Pittosporum branches, because they tend to clog up my mulcher. So I thought, well, if I just put them here, they can just slowly rot away. On top of that, I put the manure, a horse manure, which I collected a new lot of recently. There's grass clippings on top of that, and I've decided to start basically throwing my weed pullings on there as well. And then we have the main heap, which is actually doing pretty well, and that's primarily horse manure, obviously kitchen scraps, and there's also a little bit of soil in there from the topsoil that I think I've put in at some point as well. The bed behind the bench, the beans have grown up quite nicely, but they are looking a bit sort of bedraggled now, so I suspect they're succumbing a bit to the weather and things, which is not too surprising. Again, more lettuce. That's a hollyhock that doesn't seem to be putting on too much growth yet, but that's okay. It can just sit there and continue as it goes. I cleaned this edging a little bit recently, which is where the weeds that I put in the compost are. So along the pebbled path, I think carnation or dianthus, which, if I'm getting the names right, and if memory serves, they're very similar plants, basically just the length of them that's different. So from clearing out the backyard, there's a whole bunch of those rocks, so I might sort of try and fill that in to stop the weeds coming up. This snow pea is getting on a bit, so it's probably got its last legs. The sweet alyssum has been there for a long time and is doing very well. Hollyhock, and they've got a bunch of these which may or may not be carrots. Actually, there are a whole bunch more over here. When I pulled one up, there was a kind of a yellowy orange root to it, so they may be that. I may have scattered them in there in one of my ill thought out moments. That's entirely possible. Into the greenhouse, and certainly a different sound. A whole bunch of linaria, which seem to be doing quite well. The second of the two hollyhocks that I bought, I'm just going to leave that in here and let it keep going. That I'm pretty sure is lettuce that I potted on. That will be a kiwi fruit that I've grown from seed. That looks like one that hasn't done so well. And these I can't remember. But anyway, apparently that one's aster, carnation, which doesn't look like it's done anything. Another aster by the looks of it, apparently. More carnations, but successful ones. Aquilegia, more linaria. Well, that actually looks like linaria, but maybe it is, maybe it isn't, not sure. Canterbury bells, so they seem to be coming up all right. Another kiwi fruit that I've grown from seed. That I think is one of the passion fruits I grew from seed. Another kiwi fruit. And here is the apparently successfully growing gooseberry cutting, which is good. And then at least 2 of the apple cuttings are going alright. The third one might actually be alright as well. Sorry, I just made it blurry there. I think that one's foxglove. I've obviously written over it and didn't clear it off very well. So I have to be careful because foxglove I think are one of the ones that are poisonous, but I'll be careful. I'll try to. A tree growing from a seed that I saved, and I'm not entirely sure which one it is. I think it's orange there, but this one I'm not entirely sure. The growing space now. So that's the capsicum that I'm overwintering, or peppers, as you like to say, the northern hemisphere. Pineapple, other pineapple, they still seem to be holding on, which is nice. Cherry tomato, those are from the raised bed that have been put out. I've got a broccoli that is very clearly bolting. I think the issue here is that this soil actually gets quite dry, so unless I'm watering it constantly, and during winter I kind of haven't really thought about that too much, so it has become quite dry in that time, but that's right. I still like the greenery here, and we'll go to compost eventually anyway. Another curly kale, that one's actually looking pretty reasonable. Again, I'm not entirely sure. It might be silver beet, or it could be spinach. It's probably more likely to spinach, because I don't think I've actually planted silver beet. Each time I get a a number of plants from my local store, there are usually quite a few in them. So I try and take at least one of those and put them in here. So we've got a alyssum there, polyanthus mix there. Unfortunately, I've put the label. I think that's actually another alyssum there. And there we've got a primula, which as you can see is reduced to $2. That actually looks like it's coming along all right. The leaves are still arguably a little bit pale. There are a couple of those in the front as well. So I'm quite happy with those coming on, because as you can see I've got them on clearance. It looks like another bolting broccoli there. I think most of these are going to bolt, but that's, as I said, it's okay. When it gets to summer, ironically, I'll probably be watering here much more regularly, and so they should be doing much better. My orange tree, which is doing all right there. Come down here. Oh, yeah, so that's definitely bolting. It's even getting the flower to it. Anyway, that's another apple. In there is a bean, because as you might be able to see, something has been nibbling my beans. I suspect it could be snails or slugs, because of course obviously with the tiles there, that's a great habitat for them. And just along the edge here, there are probably plenty of places for them to hide. I'm not super worried, and that actually does seem to be stopping them getting into that one and nibbling it, so that's right, we'll leave that be. My solar powered stereo, so I use that just to give the plants a bit of music. It was originally Billy Connolly's folk music that I have a CD of, and now I've moved on to the more traditional classical. A mix of things here. The passion fruit at the back there, actually the top leaves are actually getting a bit green, so they might be alright. And ones that I just put in recently, I think a plum. I'm not entirely sure, because there's seeds, or stones I should say, from that little collection there. It's looking quite horrid at the moment, but yeah. I keep forgetting to mention, this is my little worm farm. It just shows how easy it is to make. So I've got some of my bits and pieces that I've pulled from the plants. There's a bit of soil in there to start with, and I put a little bit of compost, and I said that's basically some of the leaves that I've pulled from, I think it was actually, it was in that one, they used to, the bolting lettuce. I grabbed some of the ones from there, and I put them in there, so that's now making worm juice, which I can add to my water mixes. Whoops, pop that, sorry, I'll fix that later. So I've got some new seedlings in here growing. I've got pak choy going, broccoli, leek, cabbage, and I had one cucumber seed left, so I'll see how that goes. Oop, put that back on. I'm going to sit there for a minute. I'll fix it. Oh, actually, I did just fix it there, yeah. And some other ones here. I think these are the most recent plantings. Yes, they are, because there's the strawberry. So we'll see how they do there. And that's I think that's one of the avocado. I want to say it's either avocado or it's another capsicum. Anyway, it'll either live or die, it doesn't really matter. Self-seeded potato that was actually in the soil that I took out of the raised bed, so I'm letting that grow there. That'll be my first bucket-grown potato, so I suppose I'll have to do a potato reveal when that's ready. And that's some more of the same soil, and again you can see there's another saved, self-seeded, I should say, potato there. This is the the viburnum, no, can't remember the second part of it. It might even be on, there we go, opulus. Now this is the sterile one, so this means it shouldn't grow the little berries, and though there is a variety of this that does have berries that you can eat, and they're quite tart, which suits me because I quite like sour things, we didn't really want to risk having berries on the bush if they weren't edible, in case people going past might nibble on them or something and get sick, because these are intended as the front hedging. My wife actually bought them for me as, I think it was an early Father's Day present, but my birthday's coming up anyway, so it's kind of a bit of mixed. But as with the ones outside, see here, looks like they're starting to get ready to grow on. Now, I'll just do the last little bit, which is the new, so I was closing the door of the greenhouse, the new garden bed here in the main backyard. It's sort of coming along, so I'll squidge over here quickly. So I've put in one of my saved apple seeds, apple seed tree, and orange. And I've got a couple of sweet peas over there, which hopefully will grow up there if they survive. I don't know if they will though. Nectarine that I had for a while, nectarine. The other Hebes. This one is, I think, a plum that I've grown from seed. And got the viola, Johnny Jump Up, because they always produce a nice little bit of colour. And I've got a few alyssum in there as well. So that's my garden in the middle of August. And I'm releasing this one on the 17th of August, which is a week before my birthday. But it's the birthday of my childhood friend Stephen, so happy birthday Stephen.